Now would you look at this? Free agency, huh? A hell of a thing!
How about it? Free agency tastes real good, huh? 2.0 in the AEW. But you know what you gotta do? You know what you gotta do when you're the new kids in the neighborhood? You gotta find somebody to watch your back. So Daniel Garcia, how about it?
The second thing that you have to do is call out the three baddest dudes on the roster.
Oh, this is a good plan.
That's right.
I like
The three
plan.
baddest dudes.
Yeah.
Eddie Kingston, you want a taste?
Oh, okay, so we're gonna go with Eddie Kingston. How about John Moxley? Hey, you want a taste?
And how about Darby Allin? If you want a taste.
You want a taste, Darby? Huh? Tomorrow night, boys. Dynamite. You're gonna find out that the three of us right here, we rule!
Rule!
You're listening to Talk AEW, the official wrestling podcast of GoombaStomp.com. I'm Marika McDonald, joined as usual by my co-host Aaron Santos.
Hello, WrestleManiacs.
And of course, the editor-in-chief of GoombaStomp.com and TiltMagazine.net, the ravishing Ricky D.
What's up, Mariko? What's up, Aaron? What's up, AEW Nation? My microphone is fixed this week. So
Woo-hoo,
excited.
We can hear you! You're not
got
in
so
the
much to
water
say.
anymore.
Yo, last week's sound was like not very good. I'm sorry, listeners.
It's all good. All is forgiven.
Podcasting is like life. When you fall, you get back up and try again.
Mm-hmm. It's a very good metaphor, actually.
And when you have technical difficulties,
Just gotta roll with it. It's like...
So we've got one main event this week, correct?
Mhm.
Yes, we are going to be talking about a certain in-ring debut of Mr. Malakai Black. Putting out on Mr. Cody Rhodes. What's in the future? Where do we see this leading? But first, as is tradition, the increasingly inaccurately named Ricky's rapid fire questions.
The not so rapid.
Rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire questions.
All right, so question number one. Ric Flair, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, maybe top 3, was recently released from WWE. So, what are the chances that Ric Flair will go to AEW, and would you want to see this happen?
I don't. Okay, I'll
Careful what you say. I'm very sensitive when you talk about Ric Flair.
I'm gonna do a 2-parter here.
Okay.
Okay. Will he show up to AEW? I think yes. Do I think he'll sign with AEW? I don't think so.
I think you're right. I think he's going to make an appearance, but I don't think he's going to sign a contract like Jake the Snake or Arn Anderson, where he's going to be expected to work full time and appear weekly.
Exactly. He's like what, in his 70s? I mean,
At least.
yeah. He barely made appearances when during the pandemic. I mean, he did do like a week, like he did have a weekly spot on Raw, but it wasn't like it was during the pandemic, right? It's not like they're going anywhere. You got to keep in mind too that he has to be touring.
Yeah, the thing about Ric Flair is he's had his ups and downs at WWE, and recently I would say it's like a major down. Like I wasn't excited. I wasn't happy with what they were doing with his character, him per se, like Ric Flair, the legend. Well, I mean, his son-in-law is wrestling in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see, I mean, and we can have a sort of reunion of the 4 horsemen. It would be the 3 horsemen, really.
3 out of 4 ain't bad.
Nobody cares about the 4th horseman. All we care about is Tully, Anderson, and Flair. Let's be honest. All right, next question. Bray Wyatt was released from WWE. I feel like the whole entire podcast is going to be about wrestlers.
Should this
who
person
were
come?
fired.
I
Should
mean-
that person come? When is this person going to debut?
When
I
is
mean-
the last time we've had such an incredible amount of talent who were all free agents? Like, this is insane. Anyhow,
It's nuts.
Yeah,
it's
it
nuts.
is.
Wyatt, he was released from WWE. He was like the big one, and he was like the one that everyone was flipping out over. Everyone was like depressed and sad that he got fired, let go. So, would you want to see him in AEW? And I'm sorry, I always forget how to pronounce his actual real first and last name.
Wyndham? Isn't he a
Mm.
Wyndham? It's an odd Rotunda. Wyndham Rotunda.
Yeah, that was it.
Fantastic
Yeah.
name. Like, just
Yeah.
you don't need to come up with a wrestling name. That's a great name.
Well, your dad is the IRS, so
I mean,
anyway, if I want to see him in AEW, I mean, for sure, 100%.
yeah, I'll be honest. I'm kind of 50-50. Like, I feel like it's a good fit just because of how creative he is, but
Mm-hmm.
like in the ring work is kind of like, man, take a
Yeah.
minute for me.
Yeah, I mean, like in the ring, he's
Boring. The last 2 years, he's been boring. Let's be honest. It's maybe
Well-
not his fault, but it's been the
Well, I'm
last
gonna-
2 years. Woof.
Yeah, I would also like point out too, like if I mean it's not his fault too, but the last match he had in WrestleMania against like our Randy Orton, that was wasn't particularly great, especially for his like long absence. So I mean, it was shitty. It was
Listen,
crappy the way they handled it.
I'm sure you've seen the memes, but anytime anyone has a match with Randy Orton, they better be careful because everyone who's been let go so far by WWE, the last person they wrestled or had a feud with was Randy Orton.
That's so freaking true.
Oh,
You
my
just
goodness.
that's so true. That
Yeah.
that is true. There is a meme going on because every person
It-
that's signed in AEW recently, like superstars, has fought Randy Orton. Like the last person they fought was Randy Orton.
Yeah, like Randy Orton's pretty much buried all of these dudes, and
Oh,
they
he's a
get let
legend
go.
kill- It's a legend killer.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah.
I would love to see him in AEW 100%. And like Mariko said, you don't have to worry about his gimmick, his name, his character, because he can just drop it because clearly WWE owns, I guess, the copyrights to that character persona, the Fiend or Wyatt or the Wyatt family, etc., etc. But 100% I want him to go to AEW. Use your real name, dude. It's an amazing real name. All I ask, and of course I don't have any power, but as a fan, if I could just make a request, don't put him with the Dark Order.
I don't.
Oh.
No, just leave it
No.
be.
You
You know-
think?
Because Aaron, when the Dark Order started, they sucked. Nobody liked them. Brody Lee came in and he did something great with the Dark Order, but the Dark Order only became fan favorites because of the unfortunate passing of Brody Lee. Sadly,
Well,
he passed away.
It was.
I mean, getting
Brody-
over on-
Yeah, I mean, Brody Lee gave them a template of what to be. I mean, they were slowly the building blocks were there when Brody Lee came in.
Yeah, like just John Silver and Alex Reynolds being
Mhm.
hilarious, like that had already started.
Yeah, but I really do feel like it's still because of his passing that they went from being likable to just like fan favorites, and
Mhm.
I don't think that's something you could have written. It happened because of an unfortunate, the unfortunate
Yeah.
passing of Brody Lee.
Yeah, I mean, because it just seems on par for like Bray Wyatt to take or be part of the Dark Order, especially of like how close he was with Brody Lee. I mean, dude,
he's so talented and he's so good on the microphone. He can deliver a promo like it's no one's business. I'm sure he can come up with a new character. I prefer the Wyatt family, the original like Wyatt, Bray Wyatt, like when he became popular, when he was wrestling against like the Shield, for example.
yeah.
That was the Wyatt that I like the Fiend. The Fiend was okay. I like the concept and the gimmick and the character,
Mhm.
but it's just like the past 2 years, every single match with him was just so boring to watch.
Well, he was also stuck against Randy Orton, so
Right. All right. Ruby Soho is expected to sign with All Elite Wrestling. This shouldn't be a surprise because
Yay!
okay, you're happy. Okay,
I'm very
so
happy.
I guess you're not against the signing. Explain why for people who don't know who she is.
She's another super underrated part of the stacked WWE women's division. I get the impression that she was woefully misunderstood. She has a fantastic look. She's covered in tattoos, got crazy hair. She's a very good worker, very accomplished technical wrestler. And I like, as much as the AEW women's division has grown in the last year and just really blossomed into something that I'm very excited about finally. I think she's just like a perfect addition to round it out. Her style is distinct from most of the other people there. Her look is distinct from everybody else. And I just feel like she would help to really like level things up with her experience and just wrestling experience, but also experience being on TV, working at that high level. I think it's a good thing for the fans and for the company.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree because like she was one of the rosters, like wrestlers on the main roster of WWE that I really liked watching because she did stand out of all of the other women wrestlers. I mean, she was in a very good tag team. She was in a very interesting storyline too in SmackDown, which showed like a lot of, I guess, like her
showed potential.
Showed a lot of potential. There was a lot of comedic angles too in SmackDown, which I like. Again, showed a different side of her. But the wrestling skills and everything that Mariko pointed out, like, yeah, I mean, I totally for it.
I think it's amazing. Her, Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, and Serena Deeb, right away 4 superstars in my opinion.
Dude, I could like
yeah, these are like match of the year contender type women.
Yeah. All right, one more wrestler to talk about who's not officially part of the roster yet, Adam Cole. What do you think the odds are that Adam Cole will go to AEW? Because from my understanding, he hasn't yet signed a contract with WWE.
Nope. From what the articles that I read, he is working without a contract, but he is still going to make an appearance at SummerSlam.
So. Yeah, from what I've heard, it was he agreed. Basically, what happened is they didn't realize.
Yeah, they forgot.
They didn't realize his contract was up for renewal, allowed it to lapse, and then got him to agree to an extension and said, "Okay, we'll work it out before SummerSlam." Apparently, he has rejected multiple offers at this point.
Yeah.
So I can't really call this one, honestly, because I think he would be great in AEW. I think there's a lot of reasons why it completely makes sense. You know, his strong connection with the elite and everybody, Britt Baker being there, just what he could bring to the company in general. Amazing. Everybody who is worth their salt in wrestling would understand why he'd be a great fit. Yeah. The other thing is, though, I think Hunter and Shawn Michaels also realize what they would lose if he goes.
Oh yeah, he's like a Triple H product.
Yeah, and he really likes working for them. Triple H and Shawn Michaels were the guys he grew up idolizing as a wrestler. So
yeah,
or they put him in like the 24/7 challenge or some shit because he's little.
Oh,
so
God.
yeah. And I think maybe because of something like that, maybe Hunter and Shawn Michaels have been protracting him by keeping him in NXT, and he does have a good future there if they can make enough of a case. But if not, like, go hang out with your friends and your family.
Yeah, but exactly. I mean, surprising he's not up in the main roster yet, but like at the same time, it's like it's also, if I was working for a WWE and the fact that like they forgot that I'm not under contract, like it's kind of insulting, It's like it's
not a good sign.
No,
they've only got like 500 wrestlers to keep track of. Like it's insane their roster.
Many
wrestlers.
That's part of it too, but like.
You have people on staff who takes care of this stuff.
Okay.
Well, that's the other thing is there's so many staff members. Brian Alvarez actually named names as far as like who he figured was fired in retaliation for this debacle. um, which is interesting. Um, but yeah, no, it's a big F up. And if I were Adam Cole, I would see this as a terrible sign.
Well,
I would see it as a blessing for him because he's got the leverage now.
Well,
And
yeah, that too.
Aaron, you said like you could see him in the main roster. I think everyone can, but Vince McMahon. Like that's the thing.
No, of
Vince
course.
McMahon doesn't like small guys.
No.
And the thing about Adam Cole is he's done just about everything he can do in NXT. Like it's
Well,
like
exactly.
you got to move him to the main roster, and if not, he's better off in AEW because not only would he have a chance to shine and wrestle guys like maybe CM Punk or Daniel Bryan or Kenny Omega or Hangman Adam Page, but he would be in a company with his wife, Britt Baker, his best friends all wrestle and work at AEW. It would be great to see him in the main roster. I love the fact that Finn Balor is now showing up on SmackDown, is it?
Yeah.
He's like, by the way, the greatest wrestler right now, period.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think for him, I think it's the best decision for him to go to AEW if they're not going to move him to the main roster of WWE.
Oh, just to add like one last. I mean, like, I 100% believe that he's gonna go to AEW, and I just want to add this side note of like, I mean, it was like during the holidays. I remember seeing this video of a New Year's party with Britt Baker and Adam Cole, and you have Brody Lee Jr. like wrestling like Adam Cole and Adam Cole taking the pin for him. I mean, like it's just one of those endearing things, and it just shows how Adam Cole is also like close to like the AEW family also. So if I was going to put money, I would definitely think he's going to AEW at this point.
Yeah. All right, we shall see. Should we quickly discuss the controversy surrounding Max Castor this past week on AEW Dark or move on?
Oh boy.
Okay, it was the 100th episode of Dark.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little underwhelming, to be honest. I wasn't very impressed. But Max Castor came out and did his usual rap before the match. And basically his rap, he was insulting and dissing the opponents, which just so happened to be Julia Hart and the
Varsity Blondes. Well, he's been in a war of words with Varsity Blondes, which has all been digs at Julia for like the last couple of weeks on Dark. So they were continuing that, but it was reference to Simone Biles, which is like you cannot, and like she's America's sweetheart. Like you don't kick someone when there's down. Is like gross. I get you're a heel, but like that wasn't cool. But then there was another reference that I didn't get at the time, but it was referring directly to some sort of sex scandal, and I was just like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
It was the lacrosse team at Duke, I think. Charged, or no, they didn't get charged. They got accused of rape. So basically, he decided to throw in a rape joke and a joke about mental illness.
Yeah, belittling mental health, making light of sexual assault, and then another direct insult at Julia Hart that I'm just not even going to bother.
Basically that, she needs to shower a little bit more. So my question was, if we're going to talk about this, is when is it too far if you are a heel? And I'm just going to quickly jump in and say that my issue with this specific rap battle, it wasn't even a rap battle, it's just this rap, is that he actually... Because when wrestlers make fun of wrestlers, which happens all the time, it's since the beginning of time with wrestling, right? You as the audience assume that they're just making fun of the character. Sometimes they're actually saying things that are true, but we, the audience, shouldn't know that this is true, right? But in this case, he's referencing the lacrosse team from Duke who were accused of raping a woman and went to trial. It's like this big famous like court case, which is, it's like go and read about it. And then of course they also reference Simone Biles, which is like fresh in the news, and it's about her. Like everyone knows this. So basically it's like you're making fun of things that we actually know are true. And that's where it gets very sensitive.
I feel it gets sensitive when you are attacking, again, using someone like mental illness, for example. I always think that it's like an ill taste to do it, especially like, you know, with so many people watching.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people that watch it probably have like, mental health issues.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, like if they made fun of Hangman Adam Page, right, and they called him an alcoholic, I mean, that's part of his character. We hope and assume that he's not actually an alcoholic in real life. Now, that can still be sensitive for someone who maybe is an alcoholic or has someone in the family who's an alcoholic. But you know what? You're watching a TV show,
Well, in a way, like the way they handle Adam Page alcoholism is, I mean, I wouldn't say like I would probably go and say like it's pretty tasteful, because like it's not like we have a constant video of him like drinking, although the number of times he does appear he is drinking, but it's not the forefront of the conversation. I think that's what I want to say.
Yeah,
it's implied that he is an alcoholic, but it's never like the conversation that he's an alcoholic.
The difference is that it's a storyline. What Max Castor did was he basically just decided to straight up insult specific people in real life cases just to get a rise out of the audience. So that's kind of that's not very
well. Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, like making these kinds of references and being as base as you can about them is sort of a hallmark of rap battle, and being blue and off color and politically incorrect is seen as a tactic. That said, it's not a battle. There's nobody who can answer them.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other fact is, like, it's a TV show on, like, it's not like down at the rec center like having a battle. This is like on TV. Like, okay, it was YouTube, but like they still have advertisers, And the other thing is too is like, pick one thing you're gonna punch down on per rap. Don't do all three all in one.
It's not like going to the movie theater and buying tickets for Joseph Kahn's movie Bodied, which is all about rap battles. And you walk in and you know that you're going to watch a bunch of guys do rap battles, and things are going to get touchy and sensitive, and they're going to they're not going to like hold back on the punches. But it's like you said, you're on national TV. The audience is like, I mean, look, there was like 2-year-old, there was like babies in the audience, for crying out loud. I just find it interesting because it was on the YouTube show, not on Dynamite, not on TNT.
Yeah.
But on Dynamite, we also had a hardcore match where a guy was slicing an older man with like a pizza cutter. So it's like I don't know, like I don't want to be like the hypocrite because I don't know when I should be upset. I just thought that the difference here is that it wasn't part of a storyline, an ongoing storyline. It wasn't progressing a character. It wasn't really doing much except for hurting people and making people feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, moving on. Let's move on to some fun stuff here, guys. Okay. Juvi, the Juice, Juventud Guerrero, and Chris Jericho's match was, I think, incredibly sloppy. But, there are a few highlights. And let's face it, like, both of the men are past their prime. One of them, I think, was actually in retirement. Mm-hmm. What I want to know, was this match good enough? Was it good enough to have Juvi come back and fight Jericho like this on Dynamite? The opening match, a big, huge event. And do you think we would get Juvi in the wrestling game? Because that's all I care about. I just want him in the wrestling game.
Yeah, that seems unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And
licensing.
But he was in WCW NWO Revenge, which is the games, like those N64 games by THQ is the games that they're trying to replicate.
You gotta pay the man for likeness. I mean, the closest thing you'll probably get is his. You can create a character that looks like Juvi. You'll probably get like a set list, but as the character himself, I don't think so.
Oh man.
Yeah, that seems highly unlikely, especially that he's not part of the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, because I really would love to have him in the game.
You can create Juvi if you want.
Okay, but like in all honesty, I mean, I got the match that I thought I would get. It wasn't a surprise to me that this match would be sloppy and Chris Jericho would be somewhat tired because he's been wrestling every single week and his matches are pretty intense. And then of course Juvi was in retirement, and I was kind of surprised that a lot of people were just so upset. I'm like, what did you expect?
Yeah.
Were they really upset? I mean, like, what did they expect? Hoovy from like the 90s? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, he moves slow. I'm like, no shit, he moves slow.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, oh, this is going to be exciting. And I was like, right, both of these men are in their 50s. Okay.
Yeah. They're
It
in
was
the-
okay.
Yeah, it was, but that's the thing. It was okay.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what I expected. I mean, it's just me. Like, but
Yeah.
I expected okay. I don't expect to see Hoovy flying like he used to back in WCW.
I know, but did we want to see him get out of retirement for okay?
I mean, if we're gonna get him in the
Mm.
video game, then yeah, sure.
I
All right,
really don't
moving
think that's
on.
going to happen.
So, what are the chances that Chris Jericho can and actually will beat Wardlow, who is the fourth labor? And how do we feel about Wardlow losing Chris Jericho, who, no offense, once again, is 50 years old, out of his prime, out of shape, and he's gonna like beat Wardlow?
They're going to have to write in some kind of shenanigans of some sort.
Mhm.
Probably coming from the other side where they pwn themselves somehow and give Jericho an edge, or, maybe there's a brawl on the outside, or there will be shenanigans, because we all know in a fair fight it's just not going to happen.
Well, especially with MJF at ringside.
As referee.
Do you think that maybe MJF will hit he'll try to interfere and he'll hit Wardlow instead of Chris Jericho by mistake and cause Wardlow the match, and that can start the tension and between those two men, so we can eventually get a feud between Wardlow and
That
MJF?
seems like the most likely, like a very
Because
likely outcome.
I feel like they're rewriting the rules per week, because I could swear that when this started, it was supposed to be 5 labors and then he wrestles Jericho. And I thought it would be he would fight the Pinnacle. And then it was like, no, he's going to fight Sean Spears, and let's bring in a bunch of like surprise guests, like opponents like Hoovy and Nick Gage for him to wrestle, and everyone loses their mind. And so now everyone thought they were going to get like Lance Storm or Jeff Cobb or like the Big Show. I still think Sammy would have been amazing. And now this week, it turns out that no, once he beats Wardlow, then he fights MJF, who's the 5th labor. That doesn't make
Really?
sense. The 5th
I must
labor.
have missed that part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
he did.
because
say that.
dude, it's the 5 labors of
Mhm.
Jericho. So you're
Yeah.
supposed to, like, going by the famous like Greek
Well,
mythology
yeah.
story, you're supposed to
Complete the 5
complete
labors.
the 5 tasks.
Oh, whatever. We're done with the fun part of the labors. Let's just get it over with.
Well, I thought he should fight 5 and then fight MJF. It doesn't make sense that MJF is the 5th labor.
I think Mariko is right. Like, I probably AEW was like, this is probably gonna take too long.
So you think that they decided
And we just
to rewrite
signed
it?
a whole bunch of new people. We can't afford to bring in a bunch of guest stars. So let's just wrap this up.
Well, because I was thinking it's because they need the match to happen at All Out. Is that what's going to, like, are they going to fight at the pay-per-view, or are they going to fight on Dynamite?
It's entirely possible. I mean, they might be setting us up for the pay-per-view, but
It makes no sense, Aaron. This is not what was advertised. I'm like not happy about this. It doesn't make sense. He's the 5th labor.
I don't disagree with you, but on the other hand,
Okay, well, sticking with Chris Jericho for a second here, AEW announced who the commentary team for Rampage would be, and it includes Chris Jericho. So, we talked about this last week about how this sort of feels like a final goodbye tour. You know, maybe he will retire. Like, I mean, can he still work commentary? I guess he can, because Taz does it, but Taz is not a wrestler. Like, he's going to be on the commentary booth for Rampage, but still be part of the roster and wrestle? Like, that doesn't make sense. It just feels like Chris Jericho's done, and like he's gonna
maybe
like,
that's another reason to wrap things up with the 5 laborers.
yeah. I mean, it might be that too. Like, it could be like just Chris Jericho being like, "We got to wrap this up soon. My body can't take this anymore."
or maybe Tony Khan just can't count, and he didn't realize that he was like 1 week short. Like, I'm so confused. Like this, I know I want to go back and watch Dynamite from like 5 weeks ago, whenever it was that they announced the 5 labors, to see if I'm right here, because I could swear that it was 5 labors and then you fight MJF. But no, if he's part of the commentary team with 3 other people, which we're going to talk about soon, There's no way he's going to still be a wrestler. It makes no sense. Okay, speaking of which, we've already talked about this in the past. There's 3 people too much on commentary. Now we got 4 people on commentary for Rampage, of which, by the way, includes Chris Jericho, who's just going to take over. So there's no point in having like 3 people. I might as well just have Chris Jericho by himself. So is 4 people too much on commentary?
I guess we're about to find out.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. I'm like, we're gonna have to find out to see how it's gonna work.
So it's Mark Henry, it's Excalibur, it's Chris Jericho,
And Taz. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
did anyone catch this? This is gonna be interesting because like Taz and Excalibur have their own kind of groove going on. So how Chris Jericho and Mark Henry fit into it, I think is going to be very interesting.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is Excalibur saying goodbye to Dynamite? Because he seemed to imply that he's leaving the Dynamite commentary team.
I might have missed that part.
Okay. Yeah. At one point, when they announced the who the commentary team would be for Rampage, go back and watch it if you PVR'd it. Excalibur says something. He's like all sad. And he's like, I just want to say thank you very much, blah, 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 to JR and Tony. It's a pleasure working Dynamite with you guys. It's going to be hard to say goodbye or something. Like, he made it sound like it was his last or he's leaving Dynamite soon to go work Rampage. I think he might be leaving Dynamite.
I'm going to have to go back and check the tape, but the only comment that I can say, I mean, like, does Rampage film in the same town as when Dynamite is in town, or is it like a separate tour?
No idea.
Yeah, because
then it's next week is the
Pittsburgh. I mean, well,
yeah, and then it's Chicago, but on the Wednesday that week they're going to be somewhere else.
Exactly. So like that's what I'm thinking, right? If Excalibur is part of that commentary, and let's say like he has to be in different towns or whatever, I mean, it might make it hard for him to appear in Dynamite at the same time. But also thinking about this scenario too, I mean, if Chris Jericho doesn't be part of Rampage also, like he might not be able to appear on every Dynamite either.
So dark matches are dark matches. We understand what a dark match is. Elevation is supposed to be its own like actual show on YouTube. So, but they're not going to actually sell tickets, I don't think, for Elevation. So basically Elevation is composed of dark matches. So what's the difference between dark and Elevation?
Local talent. Dark features like local talent or whatever town they're in, if I'm not mistaken.
And Elevation?
Well, it's roster just talent. Yeah, roster talent.
But when are they filming these matches? Okay, like for example,
before
I go
and
watch
after the regular televised.
But how long are these events? Because like for example, in the back in the days when I used to go watch Raw, we would have like I would say max 3, usually 2 dark matches. And that's it, right? But you're talking about AEW filming maybe 10, 12 dark matches a week?
Yeah.
When, where, who? Like what?
Well, if you watch the blogs, no one gets back to their hotel room until like 3 a.m.
So if you buy tickets to Dynamite, you watch a 2-hour show and you stick around and you watch 3 more hours of wrestling?
I mean, some of it I think they do on a close out, or at least for Dark they were, but for Elevation they do it with the full crowds. I think Dark Elevation is going to take over a little bit as the main sort of like Dark show, and then Dark will just go back to being like 3 or 4 matches, because that's what they did last week. Wow. And then this week being the 100th episode, they bumped it back up to an hour and a half. But
our rapid fire questions always go long, but we have a lot to talk about this week. Okay, so I'm gonna move along here. So Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston, Darby Allin had an incredible match with Daniel Garcia, Jeff Parker, and Matt Lee. I flipped out watching this match. Is anyone more excited about these 3 guys being in AEW than me? Because I almost lost my mind. And let me just say something really quick. When I watched Daniel Garcia in the ring, for about a minute, I forgot that Sammy existed.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. This guy can wrestle.
That's high praise.
He was... Even Jeff Parker and Matt Lee, like... and I love like those two dudes can cut a promo. This
Yeah.
match was amazing. Like their first match, and they're wrestling Darby Allin, Eddie Kingston, and John Moxley. Even Eddie Kingston walked out looking like a champion, like he just 10 times better than he normally wrestles. This match was incredible.
Yeah, it was funny though because my husband and I called the entire second half of the match after the commercial break. But it was that kind of a match. Like you could just like, okay, well, Kingston's gonna, and then then Moxley's gonna come in and kick everyone's ass, and then Darby Allin's gonna get the finish with the coffin drop, and okay, yep. 3, okay, that was fun. But no, I'm super excited, especially because those 2.0 guys, apparently they used to feud with Stu and Uno on the indie scene, so should be interesting if they get
Because Daniel
reunited
Garcia
in
has
a
been
feud.
wrestling on Dark, right?
I think so.
Okay, because like I haven't really watched much of Dark, but I was told he was wrestling on Dark. But I think this is the first time 2.0 actually wrestled in an AEW ring.
Yeah.
Anyhow, super excited about these guys, and Daniel Garcia apparently is going to wrestle Darby Allin, or he challenged Darby Allin. So a feud between those guys. Oh man, so excited! So that match blew me away. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you love watching Eddie Kingston geek out over being in the same ring as Sting? 10 being the best.
He's just the greatest. I really hope they keep him on commentary on Elevation, because like he just his enthusiasm, like his love for the sport, his love for his fellow wrestlers, like it's so infectious. I just love watching him mark out. It's great.
Yeah, I would give it probably like an 8.
I would give it a 9. It was amazing. It was also really, really fun to see one of the two guys, I'm not sure which one's which, from 2.0 geek out over Sting. He's like, oh my god, it's Sting. It was amazing.
Well, it reminds me of like was it the Sammy vlog or whatever, like when Marco Stunt met Big Show.
Oh yeah.
He's got this like look on his face, like just awestruck. I mean, yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome for these guys. It's awesome. It's endearing, and it's great because it just shows like how passionate and how big of a wrestling fan they are. Like, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of awesome, it's pretty awesome that they are selling out venues left and right. I think this is the biggest sell, the fastest, biggest whatever sell so far for their upcoming pay-per-view event. And also the show in Chicago sold out like in like 20 minutes, and it's insane. Like it's great. It's great for wrestling. It's great for AEW. My question though is, can they sell out like a stadium? Like, can they sell out a football stadium? Or maybe not sell out, but maybe do a show at a football stadium and sell out half the stadium and block out the second half. Like maybe sell, like, how many tickets do you think they can sell? 40,000, 50,000, 100,000?
I feel like it's depending on which city they're at. I think it's entirely possible. Like I don't quite know.
Yeah, some cities aren't gonna be as big a draw as others, regardless of the venue.
Do we know if they sold out the Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York?
Yeah, the New York Stadium got sold out right away. The one that they use for tennis matches.
Yeah, the U.S. Open.
Yeah, they sold it out like right away.
Okay.
They sold out that. They sold out the arena in Chicago.
Yeah.
They sold out. They basically sold out everything. I'm just wondering if you're going to get guys like CM Punk, Bryan, of course, we don't know if they're actually going to come, but everyone assumes they're going to come, and then maybe the potential of like Wyatt and Adam Cole and have Sting and Ric Flair. I just wonder if they can actually grow their audience to the point of having, 40, 50,000 people at a live event.
Probably. It's also worth keeping in mind that still for a lot of people who might want to go to these shows, we're being safe and staying home. So I don't know how large a segment of the population that is. All we have to go on is like American data, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that is something that we do have to keep in mind. Like as awesome as it is, everybody getting vaccinated, like, we're not out of the woods.
Yeah. Still a fourth wave coming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to talk too much about.
Yeah, I don't
COVID,
want to
but
talk too much.
Yeah,
either.
no, I don't either. But it is, if we're talking about arenas and live shows and things, it is something that, does still need to be considered. Like,
Yeah, like apparently they're talking about the fact that they can maybe cancel some events. Like it wasn't actually AEW, it was more WWE.
yeah, I heard the SummerSlam rumors too.
But then that leads me to my next question. So I was going to ask, when do you think AEW will come to Canada, if anytime soon? But in Quebec, for example, I think 89% of the population has got their vaccine and will have the second vaccine by September. So if a place like Montreal is doing better than specific cities in the States in terms of like following the rules and like vaccinating, do you think that they can actually come to Canada as like an alternative, because it might just be more doable?
Depends on the borders.
Canada opened up their borders to the States as of, I think, today actually, but
it's only for specific things, isn't it? It's not like everything yet. And I would figure like commercial things, like a stadium show, like that would be.
It's open to essential needs, right?
Yes.
There you go. This is essential. We need to see AEW in Montreal. Come on. We're never going to get AEW, guys.
Need and want are two different things.
So, two more questions. The TNT Championship matches continue to kick ass week after week after week. This week we had Lee Johnson and Miro. They put on a show. I thought it was one of the best matches in recent memory. Props to Lee Johnson for doing such an incredible job against Miro. Do you think at this point in time the TNT belt means more to both the wrestlers and the fans than the actual world title?
Yeah, I mean, it's being presented as more important because, I mean, especially right now, because the world title is just one of many on the waist of the champion. So yeah, I don't think that you're off the ball there at all.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the world championship is just a block of steel to knock
it's
someone
just
in the head with.
another prop for the belt collector.
Yeah, I mean, until this storyline ends, I think the TNT Championship will probably be the most coveted prize possession. At the moment,
because for me, the belt that means the most for me as a fan is the championship that is fought over the most, the championship belt that's been involved in the best matches. Who wears the belt? I mean, like Brody to Cody to Darby to Miro. The champions have been incredible. The matches have been incredible. We've seen many, many matches. Like each of the champions defended the belt multiple times.
Yeah.
And that is, like, to me, the belt that I care about. I honestly, and I don't know if this is a good thing. I think it's actually a bad thing for AEW, but the fact that me as a fan, and I'm sure I'm not alone, I don't care about the world title. I don't care. I mean, it's not that I don't care about the Elite or Kenny Omega or the storyline. Maybe we'll start to care about the world title when Hangman Adam Page wins it, but they've never really had a great run with the world title.
Because they never put stakes. The stakes for it never seemed as high as like the TNT Championship. That's the feeling that I get.
The best was maybe the Moxley Jericho because of the storyline involving
that.
Oh my God, what is their names again? His crew.
The Inner Circle.
The Inner Circle.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I forgot about Sammy this week. Yeah,
that is actually true. I mean, the last time that I felt the AEW, I was about to call it the WCW Championship, the AEW Championship seems so highly regarded was during the feud between Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho.
Yeah,
but not only that too, because like Chris Jericho did a great job as a champion because he flaunted that thing around. He did walk around the ring talking about how much he was a great champion, or how he was, unbeatable to some, to some degree in the storyline. I mean, with Kenny Omega, it's fun. This whole belt collector thing, it's cool, but at the same time, it's just not putting importance on that title as opposed to like what Chris Jericho did or John Moxley did. Like
Yeah,
that's
I mean, we had the great match between him, Pac, and Orange Cassidy. So there are great matches that we
Yeah.
are watching,
Mhm.
but I'm talking about the storyline, the overall big picture. It's been
Yeah,
a little
it's not
underwhelming.
about the belt. It's about how he's an asshole because he has all the belts.
Speaking of Kenny Omega, let's talk about the Elite. This is the question you've all been waiting for. All right, so it seems the Elite hit a few thrift shops this week. They came dressed to the max. They were like, I mean, I don't even know how to describe their promo this week. It was
awesome.
I mean, that's a word you can use. So, my question is, who was the best dressed in this crazy, as you would call it, awesome promo?
Doc Gallows. I don't know what that was. The Miraboo, the smoking jacket robe thing.
So I actually know what it is. So I saw some guy tweeting about it. He's like, what is Gallows wearing? And I replied, a Ric Flair robe. And then someone replied to me later and then pointed me to a tweet. And someone pointed out that each of them was dressed like a wrestler who was recently released from WWE. So Gallows was wearing a Ric Flair robe.
Okay.
Omega's wearing a Cookie Monster shirt.
Well, okay, so not recently released, but the Cookie Monster to CM is what Kenny Omega said during a promo.
Mm-hmm.
CM has in CM Punk. What does CM and CM Punk stand for? People have debated this forever.
Right.
The Bucks were wearing the Hawaiian shirts that Wyatt used to wear.
Mm-hmm.
And Anderson was wearing the Bollywood boy shirt. So apparently that was the Easter eggs. I don't know if there was more. This promo was... This is why the Elite is maybe the best heel faction in wrestling right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is what you want your heels to be like. I always watch those video packages and promos from like the 80s. WWE guys like Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude and Jake the Snake, and they were just freaking crazy on the microphone. Half the time you had no idea what they were talking about. They were dressed like super eccentric, super weird, super over the top. And I loved every minute of watching those heels back in the 80s and early 90s. And this to me it's refreshing. It's refreshing to see a bunch of wrestlers who aren't afraid to look stupid, to dress like a bunch of idiots, to entertain us. Because at the end of the day, they are entertainers. This is a TV show, and they're not afraid to do it. And it's refreshing to see this instead of just seeing, the tough guy. It's like, I'm just a tough guy, and this is my shtick. I'm the tough guy. I'm a heel, so I'm just going to be a tough guy. And there's nothing more to it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, this is why I just love the Elite. It's just that, I mean, for what the storyline is and everything, I just gotta hand it to them. Like how every week they can just be like this ridiculous bunch, and obviously having fun doing it, and it's like you said, it's entertaining to watch. It's entertaining to watch guys who are just having fun in front of the camera.
Gallows is just, he's off the rocker.
Gallows,
completely.
Yeah, Gallows, it's awesome.
Okay, before I get to the last question, I just want to give a big shout out to Christian Cage for singing the theme song of one of the greatest sitcoms ever, The Golden Girls. It's one of my favorite shows ever. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's on Prime. It's an incredible sitcom. He sang the theme song. Thank you, Christian Cage. You made my day. Aaron, what were the ratings this week?
The ratings were 1.102 million viewers.
It went up.
With a 0.46 in the 18 to 49 demographic.
So once again, they're number one.
I do not know if they're number one in television.
If you're getting that kind of, I'm pretty sure they're number one.
It's entirely possible.
They were number one last week and the week before. They had over 1 million viewers, so they have to be number one this week again. I'm assuming. That's crazy. It hasn't been this crazy since 1999.
Yeah, I mean the good sign is that their demographic is just growing bigger and bigger every week. Because like last week, well, for the past 3 weeks, it's gone from like 0.40 to 0.44, 0.45, 0.46. So it just shows that like a lot of younger audience, again, 18 to 49, a lot of them are tuning in more. It's a good sign.
Do you think it's more important to get the older audience or the younger audience right now? Like, because I know you're going to want to build an audience for the future, but I feel like the older audience is the audience that has the money.
No, younger audiences spend more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're willing to spend a lot more than the older audience.
It's because they're making all this money off of TikTok. These stupid TikTokers.
That or working and living in your parents' house still, like in their 20s.
That's it, and making TikTok videos. Aaron, are you sticking around for the main event?
Oh, I can't. I'm gonna have to bounce.
So then you have to go because you have kids. So I'm gonna ask one bonus question: would you bring your kids to a wrestling event, and especially if they're, say, under the age of 5? Because every time we watch AEW Dynamite, we always see these young kids and babies in the audience. And I would be like terrified to bring like a baby. So I'm wondering, like, what, like, you have kids, so would you feel comfortable bringing kids to a wrestling event? Like young kids, I'm talking about, like babies and.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would probably be comfortable because like I was around their age when my dad used to take me to watch WWE or WWF back in the days. I mean,
right, but I don't remember them brawling in the middle of the crowd.
Well, I certainly probably would not sit on the floor seats. Maybe somewhere in the middle. Like away from any like possible stuff or whatever that might happen. I mean, obviously, it's like
I think that if my kid is able to walk and talk and go to the washroom by himself or herself, I would be okay.
Well, no, I mean, she can't. My kids can't go to the washroom by themselves yet. So
I was about to say, like, I don't have kids yet, but they would have to be hella old to go to the bathroom on their own. Like,
yeah, exactly.
No, they have to be able to drive to go to the bathroom on their own. I'm sorry. I'm not letting my child wander around a freaking sports stadium on their own.
Yeah, especially
not
if we're talking
happening.
about. Especially if we're talking about the Bell Center and stuff.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I mean,
it's good to know.
I mean, like I was thinking of bringing my oldest one to like a Habs game or something, but she definitely have to wear like those in-ear headphones, like, or the whatchamacallit, the headphones,
ear protectors.
Yeah, like noise blockers.
Yeah, the hearing protection. Oh,
Yeah.
They have like little pink ones you can get.
Yeah, I know. I see the kids in the crowd, they wear them. I'm like, oh, that's
it's so cute.
All right, well, thank you, Aaron. That's been Ricky's rapid fire questions.
All right, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be discussing the main event.
Here with the Dark Order, and after what happened last week at the hands of the Elite, guys, no more World Tag Team title shot for you guys.
Yeah, last week was the biggest match of our lives, and
Adam, my drink.
Whoa, where you been? Have we been calling you, texting you? We're supposed to do this interview together.
Guys, I'm sorry.
What do you mean?
I cost you your shot at the tag title. No. I cost you the shot. The problems with Matt, Nick, and Kenny, they're problems that I created, and I have to fix them.
We have your back, Adam.
No. I've got to stop looking over my shoulder knowing you're there. I have to do this for myself, guys. I think it's probably best we go our separate ways for a bit.
Adam, we're friends. We have your back, man. We got you.
I know we're friends. I love you guys. Listen, I think for now we're done, okay?
What do you mean done? Adam, where are you going? Come on, Adam.
Adam, come on. Guys. If this is what he wants, let's give him his space. This is what he needs.
And we are back to discuss the main event on tonight's episode of Talk AEW. And the main event has to do with Cody, with Malakai Black. Did we see Malakai Black challenging Hangman Page for the championship in the future? Where do we see this all going? What did you think of the match?
Well, can we start with the intro? Forget about the actual match. Just the introduction of I was going to call him Aleister Black, Malakai Black.
That is my Halloween costume right there.
Everything from the lighting to his costume to his entrance music to the way the lights went off and then came on and he was positioned somewhere else in the ring and
he
then
was just
went
sitting
off.
In the middle of the ring. Ugh.
Yeah, ends with him sitting in the middle of the ring. And then he removes the mask slowly. It reminded me of that movie, You're Next, the horror film, the home invasion horror film.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, look, the introduction was amazing. I mean, of course, Cody came out. He had his big, huge entrance and pyro and everything. But what Malakai Black did, to me, it's like, that's why I was like thinking of Wyatt, of Bray Wyatt showing up in AEW and doing that kind of like shtick, that kind of gimmick. I don't even want to call it a gimmick. It's not a gimmick. It's just a character. It's a storyline. It was awesome. And the actual match itself was, it was a really, really good match. They didn't try to do too much. And I think the spot in which Cody went flying out of the ring and landed on it wasn't the announcer's table. It was it
was the timekeeper's table.
The timekeeper's table. I mean, it gave him a reason to be injured and to lose the match so quickly to Malakai Black after he gave him the roundhouse kick. Mm-hmm. And the way he pinned him. Not actually pinning him, but just slightly putting the
standing
foot on his chest.
over him. The most arrogant of pins ever. It was just, mwah. Yeah, so my husband really wasn't familiar at all with Malakai Black. So him coming into AEW has always asked me a question like, oh, is this guy good? Like, do you think I'll like this guy? Is this... and he was just like, oh my God, this guy's awesome. Yes, I'm a fan. I'm totally a fan. I'm on board now. 100%.
And we talked about the whole cowboy theme, I think it was like last week or the week before, where, you got Cody dressed in white, you got Malakai Black in black, and it really called back to those old Westerns and thematically like the storyline, like Malakai Black fighting his inner demons and Cody fighting his inner demons, and Cody's supposed to be the good guy, but really he's a little shady and he's not really the person we're rooting for. We're actually rooting for the villain. I don't even know if Malakai Black, I guess he is a villain because he did come back out and beat Cody Rhodes after he was trying to retire, after he did his monologue and his speech.
Yeah, I like that swerve because the match ended and, there was still like quite a bit of TV time left. My husband was like, this is weird. What are they going to do with 7 minutes? Like, oh no, we're going to get 7 minutes of the passion of the Cody. And that's what we started to get. And yeah, I mean, okay, do you actually think he's retiring?
No, he's only like 35 years old. Most wrestlers don't retire till like 70. I mean, no. I know he wants to go into politics, but look, I think, look, the thing about Cody is we make fun of Cody because of his Jesus Christ complex, the Messiah. Like, yeah, but he's been one of the best things about AEW. For sure. He's had no problem losing a match in order to get someone over. He's had some of the great
Although they
matches.
always seem to happen in August, right before the Go Big Show tapes.
That is true. But he's had some great matches. I mean, I still think, like, I was always a big, huge fan of Wardlow. But it was really only when we saw Wardlow in the steel cage with Cody that Wardlow really started to shine.
Well, that was his first wrestling match for AEW.
For AEW, right. I mean, look at Cody when he wrestled Darby Allin in the pay-per-view event, and he actually lost
that was definitely part of the star making of Darby Allin, for sure.
And he had no problem losing a title to Brody Lee. So, the TNT Championship. And he had no problem in being part of that stipulation where he can't actually wrestle for the world title. So, he seems like the kind of guy who wants to hog the spotlight and thinks too highly of himself. And I'm pretty sure he does think highly of himself, and he's proud of his wrestling roots and who his dad is and his family. But I don't think he's selfish. And I think he really, truly cares about the company, and he wants everyone to succeed. And he understands that if a guy like Malakai Black or Darby Allin become huge stars, and that helps everyone.
No, I agree with that. I mean, as much fun as it is to poke fun at Cody and what we perceive as his massive ego or whatever, like, you know, he can be a very, very down to earth guy, and at the end of the day, this is a guy that loves wrestling and everything about it, the storytelling, the technique, so if he sees someone who's good at what they do and loves the art as much as he does, he's gonna put them over because he's not an idiot, and he wants more awesome wrestlers to be celebrated as awesome.
Yeah, so you mentioned Hangman Adam Page, and it's because I was talking to you and Aaron yesterday about the idea of Page and Black being in some sort of feud, because Page is a cowboy. Again, going back to the Western tropes, and the fact that the feud between Cody and Malakai Black feels like it was lifted straight out of a Western. But then why not take it one step further and not right away, but maybe like next year, have Hangman Adam Page in a feud with Malakai Black? I think people would love that, and I think
we could get some great matches out of that for sure.
Oh, for sure. I think just the storytelling, the matches, and I think like especially with an American audience, like people love Westerns for a reason. Like it's so Americana, you know what I mean? Like it's
for sure. No, it's one of the foundational myths of America is the West, you know?
Yeah, so I think that when AEW is all about long-term storytelling. They'll mention something this week and it'll seem sort of like irrelevant, and then it'll play like a major, maybe not a major role, but it'll come back in the future. It's like these little breadcrumbs, and they give you clues and hints as to what's going to happen. And I mean, first, Page needs to win the belt, but like with all of the talk of CM Punk and Bryan and Andrade and all these guys, the guy that I think should get the shot first over all of the new recent add-ons to the roster is Malakai Black. I think he's the one who interests me the most. I think you could do a lot of crazy, interesting things with CM Punk and Bryan and Andrade and you name it. Keep them busy in feuds. And even Christian Cage, like I know he's the number one contender right now, so that's interesting to see if he's actually going to get a title shot. But right now, Page is not supposed to be allowed to wrestle for the championship, but the storyline is continuing because he had his big, huge face-off with Kenny Omega and the Elite, and of course he split up with the Dark Order, and they didn't come out to help out. Well, they tried to come out to help Hangman Adam Page while he's getting beat up, and then they decided not to let him be, right? But I don't know what they're going to do to reverse that stipulation, but clearly Page is going to win the title. He's going to be the next champion. At some
point, I'm thinking they might just try to tie it to Kenny Omega, and it just means that he can't challenge Kenny for the belt or something like that. Another thing that I kind of wanted to bring up, and I really haven't heard anyone else talking about, and I mean, maybe I'm reading way too much into this, but during Cody's sort of pseudo-retirement speech, he actually paid some lip service to the idea of he actually used the term infighting between EVPs, and kind of almost speaking like he wasn't really on talking terms with the rest of the Elite or something. And I'm wondering if maybe part of his new storyline is gonna involve getting back in touch with those guys, at least in kayfabe, and I don't know, something happening there.
I doubt it. And you know what? I like having Cody completely separated from the Elite. I like we've talked about this a few weeks ago, how it feels like two different shows. I think Cody is going to take some time off. The weird thing is he loses the belt. He loses the match. He is clearly going to retire because he takes off his boots, and that's what you're supposed to do as a wrestler. If you're going to retire, you take off your boots and you leave them in the ring.
Yeah.
He only takes off one boot. Yeah.
And Malakai Black took it. So what I'm thinking is we're going to get some kind of storyline where Malakai Black is basically like, I tell you when you retire, and you're not retiring on me yet, and that becoming some sort of storyline.
It's possible.
And maybe that could be part of like Cody turning heel or something. That could be kind of interesting. Like we haven't seen it yet in an AEW, and we keep, asking for it. So maybe, it's some kind of storyline where Malakai Black just really gets in his head about, why he can't retire and all the things he needs to do. And, there's only way to do that. And that's to break bad.
Okay, but here's what I was thinking yesterday. So I tweeted out at the start of the show, I'm like, Cody versus Malakai Black. You're cheering for Malakai Black, right? Right?
Yeah.
As in to imply like everyone is going to be cheering for Malakai Black.
Yeah.
And this week, it seemed like the crowd was mostly cheering for Malakai Black, but I still feel like there's a lot of people cheering for Cody. But I was thinking, what if Cody realized that the crowd was going to cheer for Malakai Black? So he needed to do something to make the crowd sympathize for him and care about him and feel sorry for him so he can get the crowd back on his side. Therefore, he loses the match and is going to retire, and then Malakai Black comes out and beats the crap out of him again. If that was his master plan, it worked because the crowd at the end was clearly practically sobbing in tears and so upset that Cody was going to retire.
I think he knew exactly what he was doing from the jump. That's the thing about Cody. Like, as much as it is easy for us to make fun of him, it also like allows us to forget that this guy is actually kind of a genius of long-term storytelling. Like, as much as we want to give it to Kenny and the Bucks, like, Cody is also a very good mind when it comes to long-term storytelling. I mean, not all of the, Nightmare Family stories have turned out great, but pretty much everything involving Cody's been pretty solid.
I've never asked you this question, okay, but for me, Chris Jericho was the name that got my attention, that made me take notice of AEW, but it was the match between Cody and Dusty that I saw on YouTube that got me to sit down and actually watch Dynamite. What made you watch Dynamite, or did you just watch it out of curiosity?
Honestly, I got into AEW literally as the league was starting. So, but no, I mean, honestly, I did come to it largely as a Kenny Omega fan.
Okay, a lot of people did, but I'm trying to think back because that match, the bloody match, the bloody match between Cody and Dusty was on a pay-per-view event. Was it Double or Nothing? Like, what pay-per-view event?
Yeah, it was the first Double or Nothing.
Okay, so the first PPV. So that's the thing. So I think if my memory is correct, I checked in on the first and second episode of Dynamite. Sammy was the one who got my attention right away, and he opened with Cody, right? He opened Dynamite.
Right.
But I didn't start watching Dynamite till like on a weekly basis till after that pay-per-view event. So I went back and watched all the older episodes, which I streamed online.
That pay-per-view was before Dynamite came out.
It was before, so that's the thing. So that makes sense. So I saw. So that's the thing. No, so I remember. Okay, I'm pretty sure I saw the match on YouTube, checked in on Dynamite, went back, watched a pay-per-view event, and then started watching Dynamite on a weekly basis, which is when I started writing reviews, and then eventually we started doing the podcast. It all makes sense now. But it was essentially like that's the thing. I was always a big fan of Cody Rhodes in WWE. I mean, not only because he was a son of Dustin Rhodes, and but I just liked him. Like, I remember when I first saw him, and there was like guys like John Cena and Randy Orton. They all started roughly around like I think it was the year 2000. I was like, wow, this is a great new roster of talent. And John Cena went straight to the top. Of course, Randy Orton did too. And I think Cody came in like just after those dudes, but just like maybe like not too long after, right? But he just never went far in WWE. And so it was great for me to see this guy achieve so much success in AEW because I've always been a fan of Cody. Anyhow, back to Malakai Black. When he was in WWE, I never really cared for him much because I thought he had so much potential, but I felt like they just did not know what to do with him. And
well,
so,
that's exactly the case.
Yeah, and so it's just like he never really won me over. But he
wasn't given a chance.
I know, but he's been in this company for what, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
And he's already like the number one reason to watch the pay-per-view event or watch Dynamite. Like he's the reason why I'm going to buy a ticket. And he's only been there for 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's the AEW effect. Well, one thing that I'm kind of noticing, or I didn't come up with it myself, but I kind of agree with it, was the idea that, like, especially when we're talking about the difference between AEW and WWE in relation to all of the recent releases. And when you look at them, and a lot of them are very surprising because these people were like big stars, main roster kind of thing. But they're also the kinds of people who care about their characters. They care about their storylines. They want to have input on their characters and their storylines. And WWE doesn't want that. They want to tell the wrestlers where their characters are going and what they're doing. They don't want the wrestlers telling them what they want to do. And I think if you're a wrestler and you're creatively minded and you want to be able to own your persona 100%, AEW is clearly the place where you're going to be able to do that. And guess what? You're able to connect with the fans when you start showing what you can really do and not what some crazy 80-year-old dude thinks is, interesting or appropriate.
But it's not necessarily what the 80-year-old dude thinks. Vince McMahon clearly has a say, and at the end of the day, he's going to get what he wants. But I saw an interview with Stephanie McMahon. I can't remember if it was the one in Forbes or the one with The Ringer. But regardless, she started talking about the analytics. And man, there's one thing I can't stand. It's analytics. This is something I actually do in my day job. And I work for a huge billion-dollar corporation. And I just want to quit every single day, which I think I will soon because it just drives me nuts because everything's based on analytics. And the thing that doesn't make sense, right? It's I get it, right? You're looking at the numbers, and numbers say that, the crowd likes, for example, Matt Riddle or Bobby Lashley. And these guys are the ones that are selling merchandise like t-shirts and action figures. Okay, that all makes sense, right? When it comes to the actual wrestling and storytelling, the analytics can't tell you what is going to work because they would have to know what you want to do. It would have to see into the future. You need to actually try new things because you're never going to know if it's going to work. And so they just play around with the comedy bits and they try to entertain to a wide audience of all ages. It's a real family-friendly show. And that's fine. If that's what they want to do, I'm not interested in that product anymore. But you can't look at Miro. Miro comes to AEW and it was a big, huge disappointment at first. And I'm pretty sure it was his idea to do that specific story. Or maybe he sat around with Orange Cassidy, the best friends, and Tony Khan, and they were pitching ideas and somehow they came up with that idea, which didn't work. It didn't work. They crushed it. They moved on. Now Miro's amazing, right?
Honestly, I think it was a Tony Khan idea. I think he was really into the idea of tying in Miro's debut with Kip and the wedding. And I think he actually thought that was kind of clever and it didn't really work. He as much as we love Tony Khan because he gives us the wrestling, the librarians were his idea too.
Yeah. And that's fine. Not every idea is going to work. A lot of it's going to fail.
But that said, I feel like AEW does a way better job, like we were just talking about with Miro, of resetting things when they're not working.
Yeah, but
whereas I feel like in WWE, it's more likely that things don't even get a chance to get bad because they're just canceled before you understand what's happening.
Well, because they really treat their shows like an actual TV show where it's scripted and they have a writer's room of 15 writers who aren't even professional wrestlers. They are comedians and I don't know, just writers in general, right? Yeah. And it's just it's such an odd way to run a wrestling business because
they're not a wrestling company; they're an entertainment
company. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I've said this a million times, and I'm sure a lot of people have said it before too. And I think Tony Khan just recently said it on a podcast that he appeared on. When WWE bought WCW, it was the worst thing that can happen to wrestling. It happened.
Yeah.
They bought the competition. There was no more competition. There was no more alternative. And ever since then, not right away, it took a while, but eventually they just realized that they could play it safe. They didn't want their wrestlers to get injured because these wrestlers were money to them. They needed to sell their t-shirts and action figures, and they can't have these wrestlers doing these crazy matches and getting injured. So the wrestling was a little bit more tame and not as exciting. And then they needed to reach out to a global audience, and they need to be careful what they say because they don't want to offend anybody. And they need to like speak to people of all ages, especially the kids, because that's their future, and they want to sell action figures and toys and et cetera, et cetera. And I get it from a business point of view, but the bottom line is the ratings have continued to drop and drop and drop. And the reason why WWE is releasing wrestlers left and right is because they want to save money, right? It's all about the books.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, they are making record money, but I think part of it is like they are saving money, but as far as who they're cutting to save money, like they want versatile people. They don't want people whose characters need to be protected or who are always a face or always a heel. They want performers. They don't want wrestlers. They want performers who can have wrestling matches and play whatever characters they're told to play and read whatever scripts they're told to read.
it's so weird because there's like, if you look at Roman Reigns, the head of the table, I love everything that's going on with him. And I've always been a fan of him, even when fans used to boo him. So it's just weird how you see how it works for some guys in that company, but then they have talent like Malakai Black and they just can't figure out what to do with this guy, which makes no sense because you figure they would, because they know they knew what to do with Wyatt and Undertaker, for example, and Mankind. So what was so complicated about Malakai Black? I guess the thing about AEW is it feels like you said, it feels like they have a say in their story and their character, and maybe not a full say. I'm sure Tony Khan at the end of the day approves or disapproves like what they do. Like he's got final say to some extent, I guess, right? But I feel like he at least allows them that creative freedom to try things. And sometimes it doesn't work. Like, remember, we always make fun of like maybe one of the worst, if not worst, storylines in AEW was Brandy's original faction.
Oh yeah,
that was terrible, and I'm pretty sure that was her idea. Like, let's be honest. Like, I don't think that was Tony Khan's idea. So anyhow, I'm really, really excited about the future of AEW. This is like the third year, I think.
We're going into the third year
in October. At least, like, if you were to, like, that's the thing. Like, when do we count the anniversary? Like, we know the anniversary of Dynamite is in October. AEW technically launched prior with the pay-per-view event, but
that was July. So
is that the real anniversary?
I mean, if you wanted to, you could say it was All In, but they don't own the rights to that one.
No, but still, that was in July, so technically we would be in year 3 right now. Anyhow, I guess we'll see what happens with Cody, but there's no way Cody retires. There's just no way. He's going to take some time off.
No. All right. I think that does it for tonight. I'd like to thank all of you for listening, and I want to thank Ricky.
Yes, thank you, Mariko, and thank you to everyone. You can follow us on Twitter. It's Talk AEW Podcast, and I noticed some retweets and likes, some people sending us messages and DMs, which is fantastic. Keep it up. I'm still debating if I want to start an Instagram account. I just don't know if we need a second account. Maybe I'll do it. If so, I'll announce it next week. But you can find the podcast over at goombastomp.com. It is the official wrestling podcast of that website. Check the podcast category section and or the wrestling section. And we're trying to get more AEW coverage over on the site. I think we publish about 4 articles per week. Really good stuff, original content, think pieces. So I highly recommend you do check it out. Once again, it's goombastomp.com. And you can listen to the podcast everywhere, from iTunes to Spotify to Amazon to Pocket, whatever that is. Like, you name it, it's everywhere. Once again, all the links are over at goombastomp.com.
Goodbye.
Dark Order! Dark Order! You
want a shot at the Impact Wrestling World Tag Team Championship for the first time ever next week on Dynamite? Great, because it's going to be that same old recipe. A magic killer, a 1, 2, 3, and 2 more sweet-ass robes for famous
I like
Hulkamania.
robes.
Yeah.
I like robes.
There you go.
After last week, I have to beg the question to the AEW Tag Division. What? Is there no one else?
Is that a line from Troy?
Shut up, Brandon. Is there no one else?
Nick, I can answer that. No. There's absolutely nobody left. And after last week, we have proven that we are collectively the greatest group of world champions in the history of this business, and they're gonna have to retire our dang jerseys up high in the rafters because they're gonna have to bury us with these belts. Tell them, Kenny.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a cheater now. I helped treat the match.
Hangman, my old comrade. Woo, you really had the crowd rooting for you, didn't you? And no matter how many of those shots that you made throughout that match, no matter how many times you had us absolutely reeling when it came down to that game-winning shot, when it came down to that buzzer beater.
2, 1.
Hanger, you blew it. And now you've got no friends, you're all alone, and these fans out there, they don't got any main event. I wish I could feel bad, but I don't. And now there's only one thing left to do. Brandon,
Cut down
as
that
retiring champions, cut down the net.
Let's go, baby!